The following podcast is sponsored by Structure Tech.
The problem you have is, well, here's two major problems. One is builders are afraid of it, and
It's
two,
different.
code officials have never seen it before, so they get afraid of it.
Welcome, everybody. You're listening to Structure Talk, a Structure Tech presentation. My name is Bill Ulrich, alongside Tessa Murray and Ruben Saltzman from Structure Tech. We're here again today with Ross Anderson. We have Bonus Pod with Ross, and we thought it'd be just fun to dig into Ross's head a little bit and talk about some real life experiences, things that he's seeing out in the field, problems that he's solving for real life homeowners, and what's the algorithm of getting from the starting point to the finish line so people can live in a house that's going to be durable for years to come.
What brought this up is just as we were walking in, Ross was telling me about how there was a house that I had inspected, and I guess there were some ice dam issues, and he ended up going out to check it out. Well, take it away, because we never even finished the story.
So Structure Tech has a very excellent name in town, and so when people say, I've had Structure Tech out and they told me XYZ and I want a second opinion on it, I always say, I'm sure it's right, but I'd be happy to come out and check it out. But I had somebody find me through our nonprofit, the MBPA.US, Minnesota Building Performance Association. They reached out and asked if we would come out because they've had multiple contractors out giving them different answers to solve a pretty simple ice dam issue. If you live in Minnesota, you have a home at all, you've had some sort of an ice dam issue at one point or another. Ice dams are a major issue, and last winter we had a massive problem with ice dams. And so this year has been crazy with the amount of calls we get on just opinions. And
This year meaning the summer
post-winter apocalypse we had last winter with the amount of snow. And so I've been out on quite a few projects to help as a consultant and put together a scope of work. But I had one funny call where the gentleman calls me up and then in the call said, I saw Ruben speak years ago. I actually had him come to my house and give me an opinion on what to do, and I did not listen to him, and I did what the roofer told me to do instead, which happens quite often. I actually go out, I will tell the people how to repair what they need to do, and I'm not an insulator, I'm not a roofer, I just understand how the concepts work, and so I put together a scope of work. They call in whoever roofer or insulator, and then the insulator says, no, you don't need to do that. Just do it like this and pay me money, and I will see you later.
And what do roofers always like to do? What's their
more
same
ventilation.
tack? More ventilation every
ventilation
time.
is
more
the-
V.
Oh, I
That's right.
still laugh. If you go, I don't know how local this is, but if you go 169 north, right before Bass Lake Road, there's fourplexes on the side of the road that all have about 8 Whirlybird exhaust systems on top of it. That one of them would
Yes.
be plenty for the entire system, and they must have about 12 of them on there. So
I was staring at those today as I was driving past them. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I've taken pictures
on the
of those.
east side of 169. That's
right.
Yep.
They don't work?
Oh, they were great.
Yeah, like 1 works really well for an attic, and 8
Yeah.
might be more than you need.
Whirlybirds are never a good idea unless you've air sealed your attic.
Yes.
Yes, let's dig into that for a minute. All right, a whirlybird. It's that roof vent. The technical name is a turbine vent.
Correct. Turbine vent.
And the idea is just a little bit of air movement, I think as low as 5 miles per hour, is going to get those things moving, and they're going to pull air out of your attic space. And the whole idea is you're going to pull air in through the soffit vents. Air is going to go in, it's going to pull in cold air, it's going to flush out the air in your attic, and then air is going to leave, and then you're never going to have ice dams or condensation or frost or mold or any of that stuff, and it's just a magic solution to your attic. Now, this assumes that your attic lid is perfectly air sealed. Because if it's not, what are you going to be pulling? You're going to be pulling outdoor air through the vents, and you're going to be pulling indoor air, warm, moist, humid indoor air up into your attic space. So it's not going to fix your problem. It's just going to mean you're pulling more air up there. Now, if you go and you completely air seal your attic lid, then these things will work really well. However, you perfectly air seal your attic lid,
You don't need
you
'em.
don't need them. So, I mean, I'm not trying to knock them. I'm just saying people see these things as a magic bullet. They're like, this is going to fix everything. I think they're great. They're very nice, but you probably don't need it. You're probably okay with static roofing. All right, Ross, I feel like you want to contradict me now.
No, not at all. No,
Okay.
I 100% agree. They're a ventilation strategy for an attic. You could use those. You can use a turtle vent, as we would call them, or the
Passive box
box
vent.
vent, roof vent.
I like turtle vent.
Turtle vents. Yeah.
We use, that's our fun way to talk. When I talk roofer, I talk turtle vents, right? And actually, we found just lately, I've been doing a lot of research on ridge vents and how poorly they actually ventilate from the top. A side note, there is a really good YouTube video on a group that actually did a study on about 18 different versions of it, and only one actually ventilated the roof system, which was crazy. So
Really? Which one?
Is it Coravent?
it's a double Coravent. Yep. It's like a
Coravent.
double. Yeah. So what they did was they basically just lit
Yeah.
some little smokers inside the attic, little theatrical smoker, and went outside and just watched how much, they had cameras inside and outside
Yeah.
and looked for how it ventilated in different temperatures. And all of them, the attics were just smoky, and almost no smoke came out except for the one. And I was blown away. It blew my mind.
A lot of houses are built with ridge vents, aren't
Yes.
they? Continuous ridge vents. And
We actually I was just part of a project that had a huge vault, and they had put a ridge vent up on the top of the vault. And after they did that, they started getting terrible ice dams on this vault. And so
Wow.
the fix was to come in and rip the roof off and put a bunch of spray foam in and do all these different things. And so we went out and I said, well, let's just
Try
try
it.
taking the ridge vent off and throwing turtle vents back up there and see if that helps. And it almost fixed it 100%. So,
Wow.
Crazy.
So how many thousands of dollars do you think you saved that particular homeowner?
well, the spray foam alone was probably $5,000 or $6,000 that they would have been putting in that attic. So,
Oh, man.
and that was an option, right? It was, let's just try this. Worst case scenario, this will save you, or best case scenario, will save you a lot of money. Worst case scenario, you just now changed out your vents, and we're going to have to rip the roof off anyways and do the spray foam. So
when we come back, I want to ask you about those ridge vents and what happens when you get 12 inches of snow sitting on top of them. Do they actually ventilate anything? You've been listening to Structure Talk, a Structure Tech presentation. We'll be back in just a second.
Hi, everybody. Ruben Saltzman here with the Structure Talk podcast. We talk a lot about education on our podcast because this is one of our core values here at Structure Tech. To prove how important this is to us, we actually teach free continuing education classes to real estate agents all over the Twin Cities. We've been doing this for years, and we have classes ranging from 1 to 4 hours in length. These classes are taught by both me and Tessa. And if you're interested in having us come out to teach at your office, all you need to do is visit our website, click on the Education tab, and you can see instructions on how to get us out to your office. And you can also see a calendar of upcoming events. If you're interested in having us come out, please visit our website at structuretech1.com.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Structure Talk, a Structure Tech presentation. My name is Bill Ulrich, alongside Tessa Murray and Ruben Saltzman. And we're here today with Ross Anderson, Bonus Pod. And we're just talking about individual house stories that Ross has run across. And we were just talking actually about ridge vents. And I've often wondered, when we get snow in Minnesota and it covers a ridge vent, if they don't work when there's no snow on the roof, they certainly can't work when there's 6 or 8 inches of snow on the roof.
And just to expound on that, let's just expand that to any vent. Turtle vents, ridge vents, whatever. What happens when it's covered in snow? People ask us that all the time.
no, correct. I agree. But so here's the deal. Really, what's the goal of the attic? The goal is to keep the attic as cold as it can be. It's as close to the outdoor temp as possible, and the indoor temp as close to the indoor temp as possible, and not to have the other affect each other. So if the outdoor temp is, if you're not leaking warm air into the attic, and you're still keeping that outside attic cooler, much cooler, or closer to the outside temperature, you're still winning in that. Whether the ventilation is happening or not, we've now taken that attic space and kept it cool. That's really the goal, right?
Wait. You saying that ventilation is not the make or break thing for an attic space? Stop.
It does help keep it cool, but it is definitely not the number one thing. The air sealing the floor of that attic is definitely the key.
Okay.
You can go on the forums this afternoon, Ruben, after you get out of here, and tell all the home inspectors what you just learned.
I've blogged about this. You know what? In this podcast episode, I'll have to remember to put a link to my blog post about ventilation and how it's not all that it's cracked up to be. Yeah, it's required, but that's it. It's usually used as an excuse for some other problem.
I agree 100%. You just want that attic space to get as close to the outside temperature as possible. You're going to get melting from the sun anyways, from the top side down. It's the management of that, right? Making sure that it's managed properly. So
How often are you called to store story and a half houses
That's
compared to other houses?
I would say it's a major call for sure. I mean, story and a half houses are a nightmare in Minnesota just because they're tough.
It's
They're
okay,
really
Bill.
tough.
Don't cry.
They're tough to manage.
No, we did an episode on this, a 1.5 story, and Tessa and I, well, we don't have anything nice to say about them, but we said stuff anyways, didn't we?
Yeah,
we weren't supposed to.
Well, they're cute, but they have so many building performance problems with them.
Yeah. And we started talking at the break, and I just cut us off. I said, this is good pod. We got to talk about this on the air. Tessa and I are saying, like, it's impossible to fix these things. But you're saying you do fix them. How do you fix them?
Yeah, we fix them, but the one caveat to that, which Tessa did bring up, was it's not cheap. It's not a cheap fix.
Oh, so you tear the roof off, huh?
Well, that's one option for sure. Or you double frame it.
You can fix it if you want to spend $30,000.
It's going to be $30,000.
Yeah.
100%. And really, in the end, the goal is most story and a half houses are not what people build brand new anymore. They don't build the sidewalls and all the little side attics.
All
they
the
just don't do it.
dormers, though.
And
I mean, there's tons of dormers on some of these new construction houses.
And they have nightmares with them.
Exactly. But I mean, you don't see the story and a half, but you see the vaults and you see the dormers.
Yep.
And side attics and
they have nightmares with them. And that's
Yeah.
why builders I work with, we put together a strategy ahead of time.
fire the architect. Just kidding.
Why don't you just build new with that solution that you talked about just earlier, where put all the insulation at the just below the shingles, and then everything inside of that is conditioned space.
Beautiful.
Put the overcoat on the beautiful story and a half house, and don't tear them down because they're amazing structures.
It's just this little thing that Tess is alluding to between her thumb and forefinger.
Yeah, we are.
That's
The one thing I'm on a crusade now in Minnesota is to put exterior foam on the outside of all the buildings. And because nationally this will be energy code going forward, not in Minnesota right now, but nationally that's what they're prescribing for our climate zone, I'm on a crusade to get builders to start thinking about it. And manufacturers have really built some really nice products, cost effective, that will work, and actually that are working for roofing applications and all different applications. The problem you have is, well, here's two major problems. One is builders are afraid of it, and
It's
two,
different.
code officials have never seen it before, so they get afraid of it. I'm literally working on a project right now with a new construction builder where we're putting an R6 exterior, structural exterior foam on the outside of the whole building, and the code official just every other turn, he just is freaking out about this
That's
project.
what I did the first time I saw it, too. I'll be honest. I was just like, wait a minute. What? Structural foam? No.
Yeah.
No, this cannot be.
Would you say that the construction industry and builders and tradespeople, change is hard?
Well, of course it's hard because you are a builder, and what do builders have to do in Minnesota? They have to warranty the house for 10 years. So if something is going to break, they don't want to be part of it.
Well,
and do you want to be the
right.
guinea pig?
No, and if something works, like you want to keep doing it. And so
right.
it's really hard to change how builders build houses.
We're
and
still
how-
not on the metric system.
No, my gosh, how easy would life be?
I know.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Yes.
tell me, what is structural foam? What does it look like from a building
So
construction?
it has to have, to get technical, it just has to have the racking strength that you need for any house. If you actually go south, they will go as far as putting zero sheeting on the outside of a building and just putting up what's called a T-ply, which is like a heavy-duty cardboard as the exterior of the building. People get scared because they go, oh, we don't have plywood or we don't have something on the outside of the building. But if that's what you're counting on to hold the building up, you've done it wrong. That's not the structure of the house. That's not the bones of how it's built. So the structural foam has to be there for racking strength in a different structure. It's not there to hold anything up. So it sounds, when I say structural, it sounds like it's heavy duty, but it's really just a foam that will bear the racking strength in the corners of the building that it's needed.
So when the wind blows or whatever, that's what we're talking about from
Correct.
racking strength.
Correct. Side to side.
Side to side. Okay.
That's right. And it does. And it works really well.
Okay.
It's a really good product.
So why is this such a good thing for our climate?
Well, one of the things to get super techy is we get what's called thermal break. We want a thermal break. So if you look, here's a fun thing. I have an infrared camera. If you ever play with the infrared camera, you can go around your house and I can see all the exterior wall studs. And on a cold day, I can actually find every screw that was put in by the sheetrocker because of the thermal transference from the cold weather on the outside of the building to the inside. By adding that R6, that foam on the outside of the building, it reduces that thermal transference and it keeps those walls quite a bit warmer. So it's a lot less taxing on what the heating and cooling system has to
Do all
to
those
offset.
studs disappear with my IR camera when that
They
happens?
get a lot less visible for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
R5 is kind of the minimum you see out there. There's a a structural foam that I like out there that's an R6. R10, obviously, the more foam on the outside of the building, the less insulation you need on the inside, the less moisture issues you have on the inside, the less mold issues you have on the inside. It's actually, I mean, that would be the goal. As you move north, the cold climate housing groups and everybody, they build with, an R10, R20, R30 on the outside.
Just out of curiosity, what happens at all the joints on that stuff? Do you have joint treatment? I mean, do you use tape like a zip wall system?
Correct.
Or, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so there is no additional water resistant barrier.
You do not need an additional barrier on the outside if you don't want to.
Okay.
It will manage all the bulk water. I don't like to bash a product, but the difference between a structural foam over a zip wall is with zip wall, it's a painted on weather barrier. And every time the nail punctures that barrier, you now have exposed OSB underneath there. And at the tape joints, if water gets into that tape joint, you have exposed wood that can rot and do whatever. With foam, you're taping and sealing, but anywhere where there's a puncture, all it's getting is foam. So you're never having molding or rotting or expansion or any issues you would have with an OSB that gets wet compared to a foam wall on the outside.
Sure. And for anybody kind of glossed over it quick, just for our listeners, WRB is a water resistant barrier, and it's just a big sheet that goes underneath the siding because, water is going to get past any type of siding you put on your house, and you need some way of dealing with it once it does get past. So you're saying with this stuff, you don't need that extra sheet.
Nope, that
That's
takes
nice.
care of it. That takes care of that weather resistant barrier that you need on the outside of the home. It will manage the moisture, all the bulk water on the outside. So it's a nice product. It's the evolution, in my opinion. If I was building, I would for sure do an exterior foam on my house.
Wow.
Very good. This is an awesome time for a break, so we're going to step away for just 1 second. You've been listening to Structure Talk, a Structure Tech presentation. Hi everyone, Bill Ulrich here with Structure Talk. Do you live in a home that has a homeowners association attached to it? Here's an interesting nugget. In 2019, Minnesota passed a law that requires all HOAs have a preventive maintenance plan in place. What's that, you say? I know, right? And what's necessary is clear as mud. At Structure Tech, we put together an affordable solution to help HOAs meet this obligation. If your association isn't talking about this, they should be. Check out how we can help at StructureTech1.com. We've been working closely with management companies all year to come up with a win-win-win to meet this new requirement. Let us know if we can help at StructureTech1.com. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Structure Talk, a Structure Tech presentation. My name is Bill Ulrich, alongside Tessa Murray and Ruben Saltzman. Ruben, you were just talking about blending new and old. Let's expand on that now.
Yeah, we were talking about, and I bring this up during CE classes that I teach when we're talking about how long a home inspection is going to take, and saying, if it's a bigger house, it takes longer. If it's older, it takes longer. If one of the clients is an engineer, it's going to take twice as long. All
That is
these.
the truth if I've ever heard it spoke.
Yes. And you know what's funny? Every time I bring that up, there's one person in the class who will start laughing hysterically, and I'll go, "Your spouse is an engineer, aren't they?" And they go,
Or
"Yes."
they have a client who's an engineer they're working with.
But a huge one is when you have additions. Oh my goodness, that makes things take so much longer. And people ask why, and it's like, well, because you have a different heating system, you have new electrical that you need to run. Maybe you got a sub panel you had to add on. You have a different plumbing system. Maybe they did new testing on the vents. I mean,
You have a different attic, maybe a crawl space.
Yes, it's like a different house.
Yeah.
Everything is different than everything else, and it takes so much more time. And so we were just thinking about this and thinking, this has got to be a nightmare from just a building performance standpoint, an energy standpoint, and comfort. What do you find in this department?
Oh,
Ross?
yeah. And I have a great story. We did I went out because they were having huge mold issues in a brand new addition that was put on. And if you think about it, when you do any additions, energy code and building code, whatever's the newest code is now put into place for that addition, where the house might be built in the 70s or the 60s or the 50s. So it's under a different code. And so you have two total different environments. So one's ventilating one way naturally and the other one now is super tight. And if you have this bonus room and you've got plants in there and there, or you have your terrarium with your lizard or whatever it is, and all of a sudden now this room is holding the moisture in way more than any of the rest of the house ever did. And it doesn't have a ventilation system set up to run just that room or that addition. So now we have this huge mold terrarium in this room. And so now we had to add like a bath fan in a room that, should never have a bath fan, but it needs to be ventilated because they shut the door in the room and it's got its own heating system. And it gets crazy, and just not thinking through how the home, we always laugh, it's unintended consequences, right? It's stuff when Builder A didn't really understand how to meld old and new, we ripped everything apart and now this looks good. Actually, I have a really good builder that brings me in on remodels and will have me look at everything ahead of time, and we'll talk through some strategies. And when they gut the house, I go back in and we talk through strategies, and then in the end we do testing to make sure that there's nothing that we've screwed with. If you take an old house like this 1890s house we're in now and rip the walls apart because you're doing a big remodel and all of a sudden spray foam everything tight.
Yeah.
This home has never lived with tight walls and spray foam. It will completely blow its mind. It will have no idea how to live, and it will have mega unintended consequences. I see it all the time.
It's funny. I have a friend who bought this. It was more than a mansion. It was this home that took up basically like a city block in St. Paul. It's more than a mansion. I don't know what you would have called
Capital
this.
City, great place to live.
Yeah, that's right. Right on Capitol Hill or something. And the walls were not insulated. Brick walls, not insulated. He knew this going into it, and he really kicked around what to do with this, and he eventually just decided, I ain't touching it because I don't want to do what you just talked about, because I'm going to change so much here. Yep. And I'm probably going to end up with some new moisture problem that I'm going to be chasing down forever. And I know it's going to be a big energy penalty for me to leave it uninsulated. But I think that penalty is going to be less than the penalty I'd pay for screwing up my moisture. And he just left it that way.
Yep. No, actually, that's probably the smartest move he could have made. I've been out consulting with other gentlemen in my industry, Pat O'Malley. Pat and I both got called in on a project, and they were going to spray foam all the walls. And I think we both agreed that would have rotted out the walls, and the brick would have fallen off the outside of the home over time.
Wow.
Just because it didn't get to breathe anymore.
I'm really impressed with this contractor who's got the foresight to bring in you as a building scientist and say, let's talk about how this is going to work together. Wow. Bless his heart or her heart for all the home builders out there. Feels like their project managers should be building scientists to head off these problems before they are all covered up. And now you can't find them, or if you can find them, you can't fix them because you can't get to them.
Yeah, man, you're speaking to the choir. I try to promote us as another part of the team all the time for remodelers and builders. I just say, we are not that expensive, and we are way cheaper than the nightmare it's going to cost you to fix this in the end. So having us just walk through the project a couple times during construction, just give you some, heads up. I really like to see the walls prior to drywall. See what they did, see what their strategy was, how they sealed stuff up, how, if they decided to go with batten poly, how that was sealed and how their different penetrations were taken care of, especially for older homes, because that now just totally changed the whole game on how that house lives.
No, this is good stuff. I have people who regularly ask us if we can do that type of thing, and I always shy away from it. I say, no, that's not our bread and butter.
For sure.
But if I wanted to give your name out for this, just people will ask us a ballpark figure, what does it cost for something like this?
I usually charge, if they want a report written at the stop, we usually charge about $150 for a stop out. Most of the time, if I'm going to do a full consulting during the project, it's $500, $600, $700. But
how many stops is that?
That's like 4 or 5. That's me coming out and being on call for them,
this
right?
Is such an easy sell.
As funny as it sounds, it's easy for me because I do it so much that I know what I'm looking for and I know what I'm seeing when I go in there. So it's not like I'm there for 6 hours every stop in. It's more I'm there for 20, 30 minutes, take a bunch of pictures, write up a small report quickly, and send it off to the builder so that they know what's going on.
And our team will be really happy about this.
Yeah.
Joe. Oh, I'm just thinking about all the new construction callbacks, re-inspections he gets on new construction houses.
Well, and
Stuff
our
to-
office. We get a lot of requests for this kind of thing. We'll be giving your name out for this. That's good.
I appreciate it. No, that's great.
Thank you, Ross, again for coming in and spending some time with us. We're going to wrap it up for today, but can you plug your website, the 2 websites, one more time?
Yeah, no problem. So the nonprofit group that I push heavily is the Minnesota Building Performance Association, which is mbpa.us. And then the company that does the new construction testing for builders, we're the Energy Network Worldwide. I mean, you can just Google us on that.
10ww.com.
You got it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ross. You've been listening to Structure Talk, a Structure Tech presentation. Thank you, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.
For more information on how we can provide you with the right information about your home before you buy or sell, contact us at structuretech1.com.